The US government already uses SpaceX launch services a lot, but the company is now diving into the pool's deep end where it had only been splashing around. They now have Starshield, a new division of SpaceX that will offer secure communications and custom satellite designs to government entities. So in today's video, we will check out everything you need to know about SpaceX's new military-focused services. Welcome to Smarter Tech, and without further ado, let's get started. The new brand, which may be a subsidiary, showed up as a new top-line category on SpaceX website right next to Dragon, Starlink, and Starship. However, it has not been promoted or discussed in any of the company's media channels. Everything you need to know about Starshield is on their page. And on their website, it states that Starshield's initial focus areas are in three things: communications, delivering secure global communications to governmental organizations; Earth observation, launching with sensing payloads and providing users with processed data and hosted payloads, supporting customer payload missions with satellite buses. Along with end-to-end user data encryption, Starlink is planned to provide the high-assurance cryptographic capability to meet government standards for hosting classified payloads and securely processing data. Other elements aim to ensure partner satellite compatibility, quick development and launch, resilience, and on-orbit asset connectivity. Early in December, SpaceX gained approval from the Federal Communications Commission to build and run its second-generation Starlink constellation, which could ultimately consist of 7,500 satellites. Now, customers in the United States will receive broadband service thanks to Gen 2 Starlink. Also, the website slogan is supporting national security. However, still it's not clear whether this will help the military intelligence or operations, or if it will just be used for, if not civilian roles, then less combat forward. Data from satellites, especially live imagery, is very important to the military. The military uses spies to gather satellite data and pays companies like Black Sky for satellite data. Some of these skills may be useful for other countries, but laws limit how much can be sold to other countries. Starshield's website employs the present tense when describing its services, although it does not include any current missions or clients, suggesting that this may be rhetorical. Nevertheless, the business asserts that it specializes in satellite bus architecture, secure communications, and Earth observation. Although SpaceX has a lot of experience launching satellites into orbit with Starlink, that network was designed to serve customers and be all-purpose rather than as a task-oriented asset like a SpySat. SpaceX has been discreet about designing and launching its military-grade Earth surveillance satellites. However, Starlink's success demonstrates that, in theory, there is no reason the corporation shouldn't be able to do so. The Starshield user equipment the SpaceX claims is necessary for this government-focused service is anticipated to operate similarly to Starlink's, but adheres to certain requirements for access, documentation, and compatibility with existing networks and assets. The Starshield version will likely be one of the higher-end ground stations, beefed up, for example, with additional high-assurance cryptographic capability and a price tag to match. Starlink has multiple tiers of ground stations, from common consumer rooftop type to paired extra tough nautical type. More importantly, this action assists in separating consumer work from government activities. The business regrets that the installation of thousands of terminals in Ukraine has led to a maze of legal and financial disputes. Well, Ukraine is unable to pay, its allies refuse to pay, and SpaceX is unable to continue providing the pricey service for free eternally. This is due to the fact that the network as a whole was never intended to be utilized in this way, and adding a military or aid operation to a consumer offering had unintended results. Moreover, SpaceX intends to avoid the hazy distinctions between being a global broadband provider and a supplier of military information by being more deliberate about the services it offers government agencies and under what conditions. Both may be extremely lucrative in their ways, but only some products adequately fulfill both demands. Before we continue, hold up. If you're watching us for the first time, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can enjoy our future videos while getting updated. Getting back to the topic, the company also makes a modular satellite bus for different mission types. However, this claim is unsupported by evidence. This is not to suggest it isn't true, but the capability is just mentioned and not demonstrated with anything more than a wireframe graphic. According to a SpaceX presentation, the Starlink architecture will serve as the main foundation for Starshield. We are referring to a new class of satellites with a modular construction that can carry various payloads, cameras, radars, data collection, and interception devices, etc. Customers of SpaceX will be able to scale the network and launch spacecraft swiftly. The usage of laser communication will be a key component of Starshield. It will let the gadgets communicate with one another and exchange data. Through specialized terminals, users will be able to communicate with them from anywhere in the world and safeguard them from being intercepted. Moreover, SpaceX will bring the potential for adding laser communication systems to other satellites owned by its clients, enabling them to join the Starshield network. But will the Starshield require as many satellites? Well, after being launched, 60 Starlink satellites are deployed by a Falcon 9 launch vehicle into an initial parking orbit at 270 miles above Earth. After unfolding their solar panels, the individual satellites progressively spread out over the planet. Each satellite also uses its thrusters to gradually rise its own altitude as it ascends into its ultimate orbit, which is around 100 miles above the orbit of the International Space Station. As they ascend, the satellites become darker and reflect less sunlight back toward Earth. In the past, communication satellites for uses like TV were placed in far higher orbits. This is because they are visible to satellite dishes over a wider geographic area due to their comparatively remote location from Earth. However, thousands more satellites are needed for the network to give worldwide coverage due to Starlink's tighter orbit simultaneously. Of course, Starlink satellites, also known as smallsats, are significantly smaller than regular satellites and weigh only 550 pounds each. Some people have even called them flying routers. Customers who want to use Starlink's internet service must also buy a ground-based antenna. And despite being mislabeled as a Starlink, this antenna is more generally known as a UFO on a stick or a Dishimak flatface. And now the question is, what is the future of mega constellations? Originally, SpaceX intended to use lasers to connect each satellite to its neighbors, allowing the spacecraft to interact with one another. The initial Starlink satellite launch, however, lacked this capability. As a result, service currently relies on a network of ground stations known as gateways. These stations, spread out over the globe, communicate with the Starlink satellites via existing fiber optic networks by exchanging signals. Thus, as a Starlink satellite passes overhead, a user's home antenna connects to it, connecting them to the closest gateway. Users must have a ground station within about 500 miles of their location and their own antenna to receive service. However, things will only remain that way for a while. Engineers from Starlink have previously tested a group of test satellites to communicate via lasers. The lasers would enable direct communication between the satellites at the speed of light, quicker in the vacuum of space than over fiber optic cables, as opposed to linking people to a nearby ground station. Several businesses tried and failed throughout the 1990s, eventually filing for bankruptcy. Pricey launches and underdeveloped technology constrained these services. Even Musk had to adopt to a reserved approach when describing Starlink in its early stages due to its unsatisfactory background. Even with only a small portion of the complete constellation deployed, more than 10,000 customers have already gained access to a beta version of Starlink's internet service. It is obvious that SpaceX has not only transformed the rocket launch business, but also worked out how to use those rockets to benefit from the quick downsizing of contemporary electronics. And now the question is, do you think Starlink will achieve their goal to contribute to resolving the high-speed internet issues in at least some rural locations? And will Musk's ambitions to launch hundreds of Starlink satellites come true one day? I mean, they're already halfway through. Anyway, comment below. Also, please leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos. Goodbye!